All right. Well, welcome everybody to our next episode at Asset Resolutions Advisors Distressed Deals Decoded. We're super thrilled today. You'll notice there are four of us on this call, not just three of us. We have a guest, and this is one of our great real estate professionals from the Central District of Florida, if you deal with bankruptcies, or from Central Florida, if you're just a geographical kind of guy. Let me welcome first Mr. George Freelove. George, welcome.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We're going to get to know George a little bit about his business and then how he's connected with Asset Resolution Advisors and how together we're making things happen. But as you all know, our partners in crime here, Mr. Steven Schiller. Steve, say hello to the group.
Hello, everybody.
All right. And as you all know, Steve is our former loan servicer, now operations exceptional partner in this program. Juan Nicasio, Mr. ACQ. Say hello, Juan.
Hello, everybody. Good evening.
All right. So, what we do sometimes at Asset Resolutions Advisors, we talk with some of our real estate professionals or investors, and you've seen the podcast on our YouTube channels to kind of learn more about them and how you don't have to be an expert in all things foreclosure to actually dive into this distressed real estate space. But I don't believe George is 100% distressed real estate. I think he's got a very varied career. We want to learn a little bit about him. And first and foremost, George, tell us a little bit about your real estate career, when you got started, and who you're currently with.
When did I get started? A long time ago. So I got my license in 1979.
Wow.
And I worked for actually worked for the National Association of Home Builders. And they transferred me here to Orlando and with the local home builder association. Then I went to work for actually a local builder and was their vice president of sales and marketing, became director of operations, and good 9, 10 years, and then they sold the company. And so I branched out on my own, started my own building company, found out how much money you can lose building your own homes, especially in the late 80s. Uh, I've sold houses at 18% in 1983. And then
Hmm.
in the late 80s with the savings and loan crisis and all that kind of good stuff, you can lose a lot of money. So, from there, I kind of went and really became worked for local regional builders. Worked for the Dries Company out of Cincinnati. Did a startup operation for Beazer Homes, division president in Albuquerque, and a regional builder, Richard Fuller Homes, and we were building in New Mexico, Texas, and Oklahoma. So kind of did that, and then ended up back in Florida in about 1995. Mr. Fuller unfortunately bought an airplane, and the result was not good. And so his wife closed the company, and I moved back to Florida. And then, of course, 2005 came and six, and my builder closed the company. And so I told my wife after a couple of years, we're going broke quick. I can be a greeter at Walmart or sell real estate, one of the two. So about 17 years ago, I joined Keller Williams, and I've been with them ever since. So, a lot of fun, a lot of activities. One of my strengths is I know construction. I know real estate. So been at it, as you figured out now, almost 50 years.
I'm still trying to do the math. I don't have enough toes or fingers to count, though, George.
So, well, that would be 46 years with or 47 years with my license.
There you go. Well, God bless. And I just celebrated my 40th year this year, so it's good to be
Excellent.
amongst
Cool.
peers.
So
All
that's
right.
kind of my background, really construction and real estate, all I've ever done.
So, how, if at all, have you dabbled in any of the distressed space? I know sometimes these things will you'll stumble across something or you'll meet somebody like us, but how much experience have you had over these vast years in anything to do with pre-foreclosures or short sales or anything like that?
Well, I've done several deals with them. I mean,
Mhm.
I did a lot of short sales, in the 2005, 6, and 7 area. I was in Southwest Florida and then back in Orlando, and did just a lot of short sales. Was able to adapt to it pretty quick, and helped a lot of people. Um, Foreclosures, I've got attorneys that'll call me and say, "Hey, look, I've got this happening. Can you work through it?" So I've got a fairly good background. I know the systems and process. Tenacity pays off. You have to stick to it. You have to work through it. Find alternate ways to make things work.
So, Steve, I'm sure you must have a question for George as far as his experience in the distress space in particular.
Yeah, George. Good to see you again, by the way.
Yes, it is.
Um, I know you talked about working through, the variety of foreclosures, short sales, things like that. What are some of the challenges you've encountered over the years, and and if you can explain a little bit to our audience, how working with teams like asset resolution can help you with some of those things you encountered over the years.
Well, in all honesty, and I think this is pretty much across the board, um, the owners of the property really don't come to the realization that they're going to lose the house. It's a fact, and either both of them or one or the other, the wife or the husband, just buries their head, and somehow magically we're going to be able to, keep the house. And so they don't like to communicate. They kind of don't want to do things, and they kind of hide everything, and they really just stick their head in the sand. So trying to communicate to them, that the reality is you're not going to live here forever. You're going to lose the house. It's going to take a hit on your credit. Things are going to happen, but there are ways to work through it. And the quicker that you can come to the realization, maybe a short sale versus, actual foreclosure is a better route, but they just don't really want to listen to you. So working with someone, like you guys, um, it's a second voice other than mine. It's like talking to your kids or, or somebody, they won't listen to you, but they listen to somebody else very well. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, I just had the situation where I couldn't get somebody, in one of the deals we're working, she just wouldn't, sign the paperwork because her friend was a paralegal and blah, blah, blah. And so you guys had someone stepped in, talked to her, and I got it signed within hours.
That's
So,
right.
that's the real asset with that you guys can help as literally a third word, other than mine.
hmm And one, so the deals that George is working on right now are from our some of our investor partners. So where do you see the opportunities for real estate agents like George and being part of our community and intermingling with these opportunities to list properties and even in some cases find buyers for them as well?
I appreciate George even jumping into the distressed asset world and dealing with investors. That's an opportunity that I feel a lot of real estate agents are and brokers are missing out on. As this market continues to change the way that it's changing, there's massive opportunity to work for individuals like George that are in the front lines of these type of opportunities, right? They're in the front lines of investment properties, distressed assets, where it can create a win-win-win solution. A gentleman like George, right, with the extensive knowledge that he has, number one, he knows how to navigate through some of the short sales and distressed assets. He has access to many listings and many opportunities, pocket listings and things of that nature. Working with an investor, you look like a hero in front of your seller, right, George? I mean,
Yeah,
has that been your experience?
it has been. It has to be a win-win for both parties.
hmm
Yeah, and so, when you can be a win for the investor and a win for the distressed property, it's a win-win for both people.
So
Hmm.
I've got a question for you, George. What are you seeing in your local market? So, folks, George is in the Orlando market, Central Florida. If he can get there by car, he'll get there. I know George. He's tenacious. But what are you seeing in the general market? Are you seeing more situations where sellers are underwater or they're in financial distress than we've seen in the past couple of years, and specifically post-COVID?
To be honest with you, probably not a whole lot. I will tell you that um, everything is overpriced.
hmm
I track numbers every day. And last week there were like 300 homes that had price increases and 1,530 that had decreases. Okay. You
Wow.
know, yeah. So, and that's pretty much on course. I mean, there's over probably 14, 1,500 price decreases every week. Um, and so, I mean, and unfortunately, real estate agents, oh, I want $500,000 for my house. Okay, we'll list it, but
Yeah,
nothing sold for more than 380. Okay, but
right.
they don't have literally the ability to convince the seller that, you're wasting your time. It's just not going to happen. And so, but they do it just so they can get the listing.
Right.
Hmm.
Um, there are, I get lists every day of for sale by owners and foreclosures. I get a list on pre-foreclosures, and they're probably I send out about 10. I've got actually a postcard. You guys don't know, that I send out, and basically what it is, you know,
There he is.
okay, thinking of buying, that have to sell. And I mail
Hmm.
about 10 to 12 of those a day out. Um, and I get a fair amount back. They're no longer there. I mean, I don't spend the time researching. It's a 63-cent stamp,
Yeah.
researching, do they still own the property or still there, whatever. Um, but the numbers are about 10 to 12 a day here in Central Florida from the list that I get.
Yep. It's funny. We did a podcast recently on real estate pricing, and we're seeing the same thing all over the country. We're seeing a lot of real estate agents who are not necessarily as well heeled as they should be in the valuation process. And a lot of them are just doing a math equation. Like, how much do you owe? How much is it going to cost to sell if we sold it for that price? Okay, here's the list price. And to your point, it could be $150,000 over only because the seller doesn't want to come to the table with money, or they're in no way, shape, or form thinking about doing a short sale. They just want to get out of their situation.
Yeah, or on a listing, I mean, most sellers say, the house I want to buy is going to cost X, so I owe X, so I have to get X amount out of this so I can
Mhm.
put it into my next house. Not, no, I mean, it's just not reality, and so they
Right.
kind of work backwards.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
And I
that,
think,
Now,
go ahead, Steve.
oh, I was gonna say, I think while we're on pricing, we come up with this a lot, right, with our investors, George. And I think, you bring up a really good point, and I think the opposite of what we find, right? We work with investors, we tell them what we think the price is. They don't quite understand where it's coming from. And then having a professional like you who works the market, understands the local market, sees what's going on a day-to-day basis, the decreases, the increases, I think really helps provide some, or at least substantiates, hey, here's what the actual value is, because that's one of the key things from our standpoint we struggle with on short sales is the price is the price.
Yes, exactly. I mean, the market sets the price, we don't. This
Right.
is what people are going to pay for it. I track days on market. If you go to Boston, Massachusetts, days on market right now are about 9 to 12 days. In Orlando, it's 81. It was
Hmm.
79 last week. I track those numbers every week. So I know exactly, what the average sales price is. I know exactly what the days on market is, and how many new listings we have. Right now, there's about 7,600 listings in the Central Florida market currently with an
And you're
81
saying
day time
1,400
frame.
of them just had price reduction. So that's
right.
that's a
Exactly. Yeah.
pretty telling piece of evidence.
Yep.
Now,
Nice.
Yep.
George, I would love to, because you touched on marketing, right? And I feel that on the in the real estate side, for realtors and brokers, I'm not sure why this is, but can you explain, or can you, I guess, advise folks in regards to how important marketing is to your business as a realtor, um, or broker in that space, and what that has been able to do for your business, the amount of years that you've been in the business.
Well, okay, I mean, you kind of have to define what is marketing. I mean, there's all
Mm,
different kind of marketings. I mean, Patrick said, when an opportunity came up, he called me because I've been in touch with him for the last 10, 12, 14 years. Okay.
That's right.
mhm.
And so most of my business comes from referrals because I stay in touch I talk to people. Okay. I mean, you can
Mhm.
do all the social media. I mean, you can do Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, the whole thing is out there. If you're a mega agent, you can put billboards up and spend a lot of money. But if you talk to people every day,
Yes.
and you come up with your core group of people, that's where your business comes from. So, I mean, there's the old cliche that, the average real estate agent, has the three Ps. They they put it in MLS, they put a sign in the yard, and they pray somebody buys
Right.
it.
Yes.
Okay, you
Yes.
know,
Right.
but I mean, you have to do. There was a time, in fact, I was at a meeting, and this was a couple of years ago, and a semi-retired real estate agent said, "I mean, whoever does an open house, open houses are just a total waste. We do open houses every weekend, every day."
Mm,
There's an
mm.
agent, that brand new agent, never sold real estate, did 356 open houses in a row.
Wow.
I mean,
Oof.
that's it, 356 open houses in a row. 2 years later, I won't tell you how much money he's making, but it's a lot.
Yeah. Well, I
Okay.
Because
think
of all
you
the
really
touches.
you said it, man. It's communicating with people, and what we talk
Yeah,
about in a lot of our training, a lot of our podcasts, the leads are in your database. They're all sitting there.
absolutely. Yeah.
Now, you may have just sold somebody a house 2 years ago, but it doesn't mean they don't need to sell it today or that they know somebody that needs to sell it. Or in our space, the distressed asset, man, you start talking about pre-foreclosures and those numbers and defaults, it gets people's attention, even sitting at the local watering hole. And those conversations will yield opportunities if you're listening to the
Yeah.
person on the other end of your
Yeah,
conversation.
you have to listen more than you talk. And unfortunately, real estate agents, like to talk.
Yeah.
They like to hear themselves talk. So you
Yep.
have to ask questions. My wife hates me because, she'll say something, I'll ask a question and I answer with a question. And she says, quit doing that.
Well, she can't hate you that much. You just celebrated your
Uh,
49th wedding anniversary this
been
week.
looking out there.
Yeah. Next year is going to cost you though, George. You're gonna have to do a lot more deals.
You got that right. Just keep sending them.
That's right. Will do. So as we kind of get towards the end here, so now that we're back in the swing of things, and you've got an outlet for potentially hairy deals, do you see any of your business practices changing, or any of your conversations now that you've got this extra tool or the arrow in your quiver, if you will?
Well, I think when we're talking to people, that I've got a resource to help get things done. Like I said earlier, you're able to get things when people have their heads buried and they don't really, they won't admit that they're underwater. They won't
Mhm.
admit that they made a mistake, or and sometimes it's not their own fault. I mean, people do lose jobs. People do get really sick. I mean, life happens,
Yes.
and they don't want to lose their home. They spend a lot of money. They've lived there a long time, but the reality is, I mean, I tell young people, or when we go to closing, if you pay, you stay. If you don't, you won't. Okay, and so I mean, you just you don't make your mortgage payments, you're going to lose the house. If you don't pay
Yeah.
your rent, they're going to, forcefully ask you to leave, So, that's just one of the things that you have to do. And I think, having, asset resolution advisors as a resource in the process is just invaluable.
Well, we appreciate your recommendations as well as your partnership, and we're looking forward to doing a lot more deals with you as well. Steve, Juan, do you have any other questions that you have for Mr. Freelove?
Yeah, honestly, if you could just, I guess state how we can reach out to you so that the audience hears where to reach you, what you're focused on so that we can send some business your way, my friend.
Well, you can reach me at just GLF929 at Gmail, George Lester Freelove 929 at Gmail, or George Freelove at KW.com. My cell number is 407-408-5167. And really, I mean, I handle everything in Central Florida. I
Mhm.
work with first-time buyers, I work with seniors, I work with luxury. I have, I guess, because I've been in it so long, I've done everything from, you know, literally selling houses for $36,000 to 2 million. Okay.
Yep.
And so young people kind of like to work with me because for an old guy, I'm fairly tech savvy and I'm not their parents. Um, so they can, they have some kind of a trust issue. Old people like me because I'm old. So that kind of works to a benefit, that you can communicate with it. I I am fairly tech savvy. I mean, I get all the time, do you text? Well, of course, so it's one of those things that really helps. So I can be reached through Keller Williams. With my last name, I'm not hard to find. There aren't many free loves out there.
No,
So,
not these days anyway. Everything's gone up. I will tell you one of the things I love about George. We're working on a few deals together, and I'll get a text because I'm on Central Time and George's Eastern. I'll get a text 7 o'clock in the morning. very matter of fact, very straight to the point. By the time we all get started, George, correct me if I'm wrong, we've typically resolved whatever it is that's out there, and we haven't even started our day yet. So knowing what you're doing, being succinct to the point, and traveling the path of least resistance in this business makes all the difference in the world, for
Oh
sure.
yeah, I mean it is very, very, very helpful. I mean, I just ask a question and I get a response back. It's been passed to this person, and a couple hours later, it's solved.
Right. And that's what we love about that. And I give my hats off to the team as well, because that's really part of our
Yeah.
mantra here is to resolve issues, not create more of them. It's a tough
Right.
enough business as it is that
It
if we
is.
all stay in our lanes and do what our job is, then it goes fairly smoothly. All right. Well, look, George, we really appreciate your time today. Steve, anything else for the good of the order before we wrap up this show?
No, George, love the partnership with you and looking forward to doing deals with you.
Well, that's what I'm looking forward to too. I
All
got that
right.
big 50 next year. I got to make some money.
There you
You
go.
got that right. Big 50th wedding anniversary. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, without any further ado, appreciate your time, Juan, Steve, and George. You guys are always the best. We'll see you next time.
Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.